I see we have Jude here. Jude, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm Jude. I'm from Uganda. Yeah, I do stand-up comedy.
Very nice to meet you, Jude. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, my people.
Hi, Aganza.
How are you? Oh, nice to see all of you.
Good. How are you?
Nice to see you, Aganza.
Nice to see you, Arthur. My goodness, I feel like I'm talking to celebrities. But I'm in Uganda, so I am talking to celebrities because you know how celebrities are in every other country. Oh, but Pablo, man.
We have local, national celebrities here.
Huh?
We have celebrities from all over here, including
All
your...
over. I'm so excited about this stuff.
So good to have you here.
Thank you.
I see we have Emma here as well. Hi, Emma. Okay, well, it's about 4:05, and we've kind of left this space open, so you might find that people are coming in and out as we continue the conversation. But in the interest of time, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. If you're okay with it, we could go ahead with quick introductions from our three panelists today, Asimwe, Pablo, and Arthur. And of course, I'll start by introducing myself and the work that we do at Tebere, which of course you'll hear more and of an in-depth story from Pablo and Asimwe, who are directors of the foundation. But just to share that we've been doing this series on a monthly basis where we invite various panelists within the arts from around Uganda, around East Africa, and the world at large to have a conversation about what's happening in the world around them, how the industry and the sector is changing with COVID and also some other topics that are pertinent in our performing arts world today. So stay tuned to our social media and also to our Facebook and Instagram and website pages, so you're able to get an insight into the next few conversations we'll be having. As I said, it's a series, so we'll be having one on the last Thursday of each month. And so today's topic, making art and generating content during the time of COVID-19 and also post-COVID. So yeah, without further ado, I'll pass it on to Asimwe to introduce herself and talk about Tebere and your work and everything. Yay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Karishma, for your lovely introduction. My name is Simwe Kawe. I am a playwright. I also produce theater. I'm one of the co-producers of the Kampala International Theatre Festival, and I am the producing artistic director and co-founder of the Tebere Arts Foundation. I'm very, very excited to be here, and I think this is a very exciting time for artists to live. With all that's happening, I think it presents us with immense opportunity to create work at this time, and also to begin to think how we are going to present and produce work in an environment that is very, very different from what we have always done. So I'm excited to be a part of this conversation, and I look forward to hearing all of your thoughts and contributions, and to hearing what my colleagues, my fellow panelists have to say to what is happening today. Thank you so much.
Arthur, do you want to introduce yourself?
I go. Hello, everyone. My name is Arthur Banshaiko. I am a Burundian artist. I'm an actor and director. I work in a theater company called Umunyinya, and I'm its coordinator. I have been working on different productions in Burundi or in other countries, and I'm happy to be with you today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Karishma, Deborah, and Arthur. My name is Kenneth Chimuli. My friends call me Pablo. I am a journalist by profession and a theater practitioner by occupation, majoring in stand-up comedy. I'm also a co-founder of Tevere Arts Foundation. Extremely excited to be part of this conversation. Back to you, Karishma.
Awesome. Well, so glad to have you here, and thank you for being. Thank you to Emma, Aganza, and Jude for being here as our observers and audience members. So without further ado, we'll get started. My first question to all our panelists is, how do you, in this time, find unique ways of generating content, especially since, you know, we're seeing that there is a surge of online work, and there's, you know, virtual play readings, virtual panel sessions like this, and other forms of virtual engagement that many theater companies and organizations are doing around the world. So how do you find ways of generating unique content from them, you know, and how do we make sure that that stays ours and stays and relevant?
Oh.
Pablo, do you want to?
All right. You know, when I was in high school, I read a book by Chinua Achebe. It was called Things Fall Apart. And somewhere along, he says that since man has learned to shoot without missing, birds have learned to fly without perching. Now, for example, in the comedy industry, we had concerts planned, we had shows, but COVID nipped it in the bud. Now, what does that mean? That means that there are no more gatherings, and we project that we may not have concerts till next year. And if symptoms persist, it might take another year because the theater has been categorized under the mass groups. So it's going to be very hard for us to have the mass groupings together in theaters. So like Lukila said, that there is surge of content online, which is a good problem. Because we get to see people who are just, you know, focusing on other things now, focusing on art indirectly, because, for example, in the comedy world, I read every day people's posts, and there's always a joke in there. They don't intentionally mean it to be funny, but it has now become a space for my homework. Now, what am I doing? What's the fallback plan now that we don't have the mass gatherings? The online is the #1 space to go right now. You realize that people at home, so we have to take advantage of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whereas there are other players in the field, but there is space for everyone. So you just have to find your niche and make it unique, you know? Make it unique. What extra are you adding that others are not doing? For example, my shows, I was recording shows for one of the TV stations, Pearl Magic. And it so happens that my contract was still ongoing when they closed. But then I have to go on and produce. So what I did, I've been doing personality profiles of different comedians, and also looking at the lighter side of the content I have. For example, I realized that your network is your net worth during this season. If you don't know people, it might be hard for you, you know, to pull a few strings here and there, or if you want to, I'm saying that in a good way, not in a corrupt way. If you want to interview people, it's easier for me now if I know a person who's in public interest, it's easier for me to call them and tell them, look here, we're in COVID times, I need an interview with you. So it's easier for them to give it to me on pro bono or at a minimal cost because they understand the situation. Now, again, I've also figured out that this is a good opportunity for people to see the other side of you. What else can you create that people don't know, that they haven't seen? Such that when they come on, they say, oh, goodness, Pablo did something different. Now, that's in the comedy. I always feel sorry for the film because as a comedian, I can easily get this my camcorder and I, film myself, I crack a few jokes here and there and have them there. It also has its setbacks because you're not seeing the people, but you're basing on the assumption that it's funny, or if it's funny to you, then it could be funny to somebody out there. So it's pretty much like a radio presenter. But in terms of film, it's very hard to make a film alone. So I would like to hear from, from the film perspective. I don't know how they do that. In theater, I've been talking to some of my friends who are in theater, and what they're planning to do right now, which I find very interesting, is to go to the auditoriums and act plays and film them. And then they will want to share that, which I find is quite also very interesting. It's another way of creating content. There are also new spaces that have come up. Well, I think they were there, but they have now boosted, because they've been boosted because of the lockdown, like TikTok. Everybody's ticking and talking and talking and ticking. So it's another space also. And then also it gave me an opportunity to look at my content. Right now, when I went to my YouTube channel, I found some content that I'd successfully forgotten, and so now I'm doing throwbacks, getting some of my old content and throwing it back on social media, which creates nostalgia, and people want to, watch that stuff as well. So for me, it's pretty much looking out for being versatile, Like I said in the beginning, since man has learned to shoot without missing, we should also learn to fly without patching, and find our way through that. Back to you, Karishma.
Thanks, Pablo. I think it's really interesting that you mentioned how things are different in the world of film or even staging plays and what you found your friends doing, in the performance space as well. Arthur, I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about how you've been generating content or what your circumstances are at this moment, given that you were in the process of making a piece on the stage when this all happened.
Yeah. I like very much the ideas given by Pablo. This is a good alternative. When he is saying that for this moment he continues working with the television, this is so nice, because what we have to do for any performing art, we need to have the artists and the audience in the same place. We have to be present, they have to be present. But when we cannot do it, we just have to find a plan B up to N, you see. So personally, when the lockdown started, I was working on a stage production in Germany. It should, we should start performing on the 4th of June. but now we have not been able to continue with the rehearsals. And I was so lucky to work on this idea of adapting the play, which was for the stage, adapting it for the radio, so that we cannot totally miss it. This is what I'm calling Plan B up to N, because actually, when the text was really very meaningful to the artists or the producers, it should not just be put in the trash bin like that, because even in the theater, the Constance Theater, which was producing the play, their season ends in in August. And then after that, there will come a new director of the theater. And when the new director of the theater comes, he has his own stuff and his own projects. Nothing can be sure that this project would continue. So I then adapted the play for the radio, and we recorded it. And now it's broadcasting in Burundi and very soon in Malawi. So I think this is a kind of skipping the mess in which we were. But also for the sake of the originality of theater or any other performing art, I have been thinking about some crazy idea. I call it crazy because it's really different. It's really different from what we should expect, because in many countries we have theater, I mean a house for performance, with all the technique and stuff and everything. But I have been thinking about, what if we started performing outside? Because last week, the actors, because two of the actors who were working with us were going back to Tanzania, we decided to stage something, just something from the play. And the way we did it, we considered this distance that people hold in the public places, like even the stores. We kept this same distance in the theater, and then invited people who can still fit the space that will remain if we keep this idea of distance. And then we performed. We performed for around 60%, 60 people. So if, for example, we had a space which is for 1,000 people, using this same distance, we would have maybe 400 or 500, I don't know. What I think is maybe our performances would be very, very expensive. They will be very expensive because, you know, we have to pay everything, and but we still want to keep the originality of performing a play, I mean, a live performance. So this is something we can do, and keep the mouth and nose hidden, so that we can continue protecting our audience, but also help them enjoy a live performance. This is something we can do. So we can do it in a closed space, or just think about outside spaces and think about new ideas of scenography. Yes, and see if we can make something different. Yeah, maybe I'll get something else, something to say after, but now I would like to say this. Yes, thank you, Karishma.
Thank you, Arthur. Asimwe.
Thank you so much, Karishma, and thank you to Kenneth and Arthur. So I will not repeat some of the things that my colleagues have already said, but I just wanted to again reiterate that I believe that when the world or given society is going through some tremendous change, it's such a huge opportunity for artists to begin to imagine how to do things differently, and also to respond in unique ways to whatever is happening. And I think as theater artists, COVID-19 and the pandemic and the shutdown of the world has presented us with really huge opportunities to begin to think about theater in different ways. I mean, the bottom line is theater is about storytelling. And when I think about storytelling, before a story goes into the public, becomes wider, it always starts small, right? And so I just wanted to share something that a theater company in New York did with me and other playwrights recently, which I thought was very brilliant. So this theater company had initially was supposed to produce one of my plays, but of course that's not gonna happen. And so then what they did was to commission some playwrights to write short pieces that can be shared online as texts, and encourage the public to download those short pieces and perform them in the confines of their homes. So that during the lockdown, you know, parents didn't know what to do with their kids because they were always at school and now they are home with them. You know, people found themselves in unique situations in the sense that either someone was visiting for a short time, but now that the COVID shutdown was happening, they couldn't travel anymore. So there were, and these situations are still ongoing. So what this theater company is encouraging people to do is then to download these pieces, short pieces, and have them performed, rehearsed, performed in homes. And if they are able to film what they are doing in the confines of homes, then they can do that and share the videos of these performances online. And I think that's, when I think about that, I think about the whole concept of storytelling. Having grown up with a grandmother who was a storyteller, in her heart, in the small village in southwestern Uganda, for us, that was theater. And I feel like COVID-19 and the shutdown of the world is presenting us with those kinds of opportunities. How can we maximize the fact that people are confined? For example, in Uganda, how can we get people who think that theater or performance is something that is so far removed from them to begin to do theater in their own homes, and encourage them to film whatever they are doing, you know, like a family, father, mother, children, or grandmother, whoever is a part of that family, to get a performance, however short it is, choose someone who is going to direct that performance, cast the performance, film it, and share it online. So meaning that we are actually encouraging people who otherwise would never participate in a theater performance to take part and engage with the stories that we are creating as playwrights. So I think, in addition to what my colleagues have said, I feel like that is also an opportunity for us as theater makers to create work for other people, to take part in, even if we are not directly involved. Or for example, if I am a director and
did we lose Asimwe? I think we may have lost Asimwe. So as we wait to hear back from her. I think, you know, it's really resonant and really interesting, this idea of homegrown theater that I hear Pablo, Arthur, even Asimwe speak about, where what we would imagine theater to be in the proscenium context is now taking so many different homegrown forms, right? Where it could be in unconventional spaces, outside, it could be a radio play, it could be, you know, within your household where you're coming up with, you know, little plays that your family is doing. So I find that very interesting as an alternative structure for us to keep generating without necessarily staying attached or glued to the screen. So thank you for your insights. Arthur, I'm curious if it would be possible for you to talk a little bit about funding. What does funding look like in your understanding for the arts during these difficult times? And how would you suggest somebody with limited funding, because you know how it is anyway for us in Africa, but generally speaking, it's much harder to get the funding now. How would you recommend somebody with limited funding to continue creating work during this time?
Thank you. The question is that we don't know until when the situation will be like this. Yeah, but the idea should be, first of all, to work not only as artists, but also as entrepreneurs. Yes, because, you know, before we start relying on funders, we should learn how to make ourselves sustainable and be able to face situations like this, because it happens today, but we never know if it will never happen again. So this is, I think this is the first thing we should focus on. We should, in different places we work in, we should learn how, apart from doing theater, music, dance, and comedy, we should learn how we start our own businesses so that we can continue supporting the minimum of our activities in the time of, in hard times like this. The reason why I'm saying this, it's really difficult to get funds for this moment, because almost everyone is saying that COVID has stopped everything. COVID has stopped everything, and is something very difficult. So what we should be doing for this moment, if we are not able to get funds for new productions, we should at least work on concepts. There are activities that we can do in our own spaces, in our own rooms, in our own theaters, just working on the concepts and getting it ready for the time when we will be able to work freely. Yeah, this time should be maybe not for the presentation, rather for the production, gathering different ideas and concepts, thinking about how the work we are preparing for this moment would be different, maybe even different from what we used to make before this period, or even different from what is being made for this moment, or even just thinking about how we can change our way of working. So this should be a time in which we prepare a new direction of our works and a new direction of in which we search our funds, or we get money for our production. Is there anything you get from this?
No, absolutely. I think it's a very interesting perspective. And Asimwe, welcome back. If you want to share your thoughts on the funding landscape as well, that would be great.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry for dropping off. For some reason, what my Wi-Fi just got off abruptly. But I hope you were able to capture a few things of what I was saying in response to the previous question. Good. So in regards to funding, I agree with Arthur in terms of this is the time for us as artists to create. In other words, before something is seen by the public, of course, there's a lot of stuff that happens, incubation that happens. And I think this is the time for us to begin to incubate new work. If you're a playwright, this is the time to begin to think about a new idea that you want to write about. If you're a director, this is the time to begin to prepare about a production that you have always wanted to produce, to direct. This is also the time, there are so many writers that I know of, including myself. We start on projects, but something comes along the way and then we shelve those projects. This is the time to begin to work on the things that we have shelved. And in terms of still putting content out there, I think it's important that we think ways in which we can share content without having to spend so much. So for example, some of the things that, for example, we have been doing here at Tebere, most of the things that were supposed to be done in person are now done online. I know, of course, when it comes to Uganda, we have internet charges that are really expensive in comparison to other places. We have an internet tax, but still, when we try to compare that with some of the projects that we're supposed to do, it comes a little bit less expensive as opposed to if we had gone full scale, like what we had planned to do initially. So also in terms of scaling back things, so for example, if I'm a playwright and the idea I had initially was to say, write a script with 6 characters, maybe this is a time for me to begin to think about creating that story and putting it in the mouth of just 1 character. If, for example, I am a director and I was hoping that I can do a huge performance, this is the time for me to begin to think, how can I scale back in terms of like the numbers, in terms of the sets, in terms of all the things, all the elements that come with theater. And the other thing that we can think about is to work with like-minded people. What do I mean by that? So if, say, Tebere is doing a project and we cannot fully support it financially, is there an organization that we can collaborate with so that they can maybe do something in kind for us, and in return we also offer to do something in kind for them, so that instead of spending money, we are actually offering services to those organizations, and they are also offering services to us. The other thing that we can think about as artists is to collaborate amongst ourselves. So for example, if I have a play and I wanted to hire a director, I would approach the director that I have always wanted to work with and request for them to direct my play. And maybe if there's something that I can do for them in return, I can offer that, so that it becomes, the transaction becomes a collaboration as opposed to spending money. I think those are some of the things that we can begin to think about. And I think at Tebere, we have been doing these things. I have personally, I've worked with, even before COVID, I've worked with Writivism, where I, speak at their events and request for them to do something for me, either at KITF or for me personally when I'm producing my plays. Either they will write a blog or they will, so those are the kinds of transactions that we need to begin to think about, so that we can still maximize our potential without having to spend money.
Mm-hmm. That's really, really insightful, Asimwe. And I'm wondering if you feel like it's applicable for new partnerships in the same way during this time, or do you think that we should be relying on existing relationships that we've built?
I think both do work. I think it's important to continue relying on the existing relationships, but also because all of us, most of us at home, this is the time for us to begin to cultivate new relationships. Maybe there's someone I've always wanted to work with, but have never gotten an opportunity, either because I'm busy or just because of, there could be all sorts of reasons why we have never gotten an opportunity to work together. This is the time, I think, to begin to initiate those relationships and to begin to talk about possibilities on how we can work with those people. So yeah, so I think both work, strengthening the existing relationships, but also initiating new relationships.
Thank you. Pablo, do you have something to add?
Yeah, if I'm to share some of my crazy thoughts, I think for me, it entirely depends on your intention, because we're still talking about funding. What's your intention? Is it are you writing for your conviction, or are you writing for survival? Are you writing to make money, or if you're writing to make the money, that's what it's your survival, then there are very many grants online for COVID. There are very many, there are different people who are commissioning people to write for specific topics. So you can choose to go that way as a creative, to say, I'm going to write about stigma, and then you're going to create something, maybe a monologue or something. You can decide to do that. But if you're writing for your conviction, you're writing, you're not in a rush for the money, then you can go in hibernation and, work on all those projects that you've been longing to work on. But the way I know the art in Uganda is that we live from hand to mouth. And so that's the reason why artists are like, okay, what next? What happens? We have no formal space. We have no circles or associations that have loans for such times like this. So as a creative, I think one of the things you have to do is now become, if you're already in the system, then you'll have to, for example, if I'm speaking on behalf of the comedians, then you'll have to create content based on what your target sponsors need, such that they can buy into what you're doing. And that's what most comedians are doing now. If you go to online and see their content, a person will come up with humor about cutlery and where to buy the best cutlery, because that's where he's going to get the money. That is target performance. So for me, and if you're passionate about your own writings, then you'll have to wait for those opportunities, because we should agree that even the funders now, in a way, are struggling. What they had put aside to give away to the arts, because believe you me, in most cases, the arts industry entirely survives on handouts. Right from the immediate, people go to theater. Before they buy the ticket to the show, they'll have first paid electricity, paid water bills, paid school fees. So it's the disposable income that comes to the artist. That's when they say, okay, there's Karishma's play, let me go and watch. It doesn't come before the electricity bill. So I think for me, depending on entirely what your intention is, it will determine how you'll craft your work. And then also, there are people who, like I said in the beginning, your net worth, the people you know. For example, you might have a group. There are some groups that entirely depend on the founder, or there's one of the groups, for example, in Uganda, I'll say like the Ebonies. If I give an example, the Ebonies, they have a village where they all stay. So they entirely depend on what comes out from the shows. Now that shows are closed, they entirely depend on the owner of the group. So he has no option but to find ways of now reaching out to target. That's what we call the target, creating coded for target partners or marketeers or markets. Yeah, that's the only way to get the funding, depending on your intention.
Yeah, but this again, this idea of grassroots, of figuring out a way of being able to have your own source of funding, but then also using this time to incubate and develop your own work is a really interesting way to sort of take advantage of the resources we have, because as we said, funders are also suffering at this time. So really, really insightful perspective there.
Absolutely. You can plant two trees with one seed. You can plant two trees with one seed. You can plant two trees with one seed in the sense that you're incubating and you're working on what you're passionate about, but you also look out for the opportunities that might come out, because I've been seeing in the papers, they're saying we want short skits about social distancing, Now, because I'm passionate about my art, if such an opportunity comes, I'll also definitely look out for it. And then also again, we should, like Zoom, for example. I didn't know much about it until COVID came through. Yeah. Now the beauty about being an artist, you can easily find your way through. That's why I feel sorry for accountants. They must be struggling with Zoom, So, as artists, we are dynamic, So we can also, again, write to partners and sell them ideas. For example, you don't have to wait for them, You write to the Ministry of Health and tell them, maybe, for example, we need to do something about this and washing hands. You create something. So it's about being intentional. Yes.
And just to add on to what Kenneth was saying, I think artists, for the longest time, at least from my experience, artists in Uganda have always done that they find organizations that want to use their services and their work to write or create skits or compose songs or write plays that have a specific agenda, and they get paid for that, and then they use that money to survive as they create things that really speak to them. And so I think also this time is no different, that artists can still do that, especially in our environment where one, the sources of funding are very limited, and there are so many artists competing for them. Two, where we don't have grants from the government towards artists. So I think those are the ways that in which we can survive as artists, whereby we can, create work that we can sell and get money so that we can put food on our table, a roof over our head, and then be able to create work that is most meaningful to us.
Yeah, the balance of creating work to sustain a livelihood versus creating work for work's sake or art for art's sake is a very interesting dichotomy that we continue to face, and this has just brought that more to light. So again, really insightful to see how we can still leverage our same artistry to achieve both goals. As Pablo also said, planting two trees with one seed. So in the interest of time, we have about 10 minutes before Asimwe has to leave and before we sort of wrap up and open the floor for more questions. So I want to ask one more question and then open it up for any audience members who have a question for any of our panelists. My final question is more geared towards any advice that the three of you might have for emerging artists, so artists that are still learning their way into the scene, you know, still figuring out whether or not the world of art is really for them, whether they are, you know, whether this is the career path to choose. What advice would you have for them as they get through this difficult moment in time where almost everything seems impossible? Go ahead, Arthur.
Good. I would like to come back to the same idea I was suggesting some minutes ago. This idea of self-support. Most of the time, you know, many artists are not paid every month, but sometimes you can get paid for a month and you will be able to fix your bills for five following months. So, and the other question, the problem that I have personally seen by the time I'm living with other artists is that when we get money, we like, it's so beautiful to use it. Because, yeah, you say tomorrow will be another day and you will make it, you see? So we should not think like that. We should not think like that, because the foundations or organizations or any other person who is giving these emergency funds today to the artists, they are able to do it because they have been saving some money before. It's not a kind of money they are making right now. It's not something that they are producing from the machine, you see. It's a kind of money that they have been keeping, just thinking about any emergency that will arise in the future. So this is the future they have been keeping the money for. But I feel like even if they are giving us these opportunities of getting emergency funds, this will not last. This will not last for, I don't know, for how many months, you see. So even that kind of budget can be can be totally consumed, and we won't know which way to go. So this is what we should do from the beginning, or even from today, for those who are starting the work right now. This is the idea I would like just to give them. You get a 100 euro, make sure there is 20 that is kept somewhere, and that you will maybe try to use in a way that it will be able to continue generating some 1 euro, 1 euro, 1 euro, that will help you to continue producing some works, as Pablo and Asima were saying, when they are talking about being intentional. Being intentional. By the time we are in lockdown, I can produce a kind of play which is performed by myself and a friend of mine, and I share it on social media. I have used only maybe 50 euro or 100 euro, and I know that this is a kind of marketing I'm doing of my own capacities. Yeah, because, you know, festivals, you request videos from the performances that somebody has done. You see, this is, instead of inviting them so that they can sit for a live interview, you see, you just want this video, and then this is the way they would be able to make those videos, the videos that would be able to talk on their behalf when they are not in the place. Yeah, this is something I would like just to suggest. This I saw, a friend of mine sent me a link to a concert made in Barcelona. That was really amazing when they were performing to the plants. And I personally, if I had a kind of budget to produce somebody, I feel like this is the person that will really interest me, because you can see the creativity which is in the video. And
Do you want to share your screen again, Arthur?
yes.
We can't see it.
Can you?
We can't see it.
Oh, what's wrong? Okay.
Les pedimos que eviten ruido. Benvinguts al Gran Teatre del Liceu. Per respecte al públic i als artistes, els preguem que apaguin els telèfons mòbils i no facin fotografies durant l'espectacle. Així mateix, els demanem que evitin sorolls que puguin alterar el gaudi de l'òpera. Moltes gràcies. Bienvenidos al Gran Teatre del Liceu. Por respeto al público y a los artistas, les rogamos apaguen los teléfonos móviles y no hagan fotografías durante el espectáculo. Asimismo, les pedimos que eviten ruidos que puedan alterar el disfrute de la ópera. Muchas gracias.
Welcome to the Gran Teatre del Liceu. Out of consideration for the audience and performers, kindly switch off your mobile phones and refrain from taking pictures during the show. Please also avoid any other noise that could spoil other people's enjoyment. Thank you very much.
Yes, just this.
Right.
Yeah, and I would let's see this. Okay, the entrance of the performance.
Maybe you can also share this link with us, so along with the recording of this video, we can share it with participants that were not able to attend today.
Yeah, but let me just go to the end of this. This is the end of the performance. I like the interest of the design of the plant. You can see that during the performance. Interesting to me when I thought about this idea of how he thought about creating this performance for the plants in a situation like this, when we have not been able to go to the theater because the air is not okay, because we cannot breathe in the same place, you see. And then he just thought about this idea. This was so interesting to me. And the end, when he thought about this idea of instead of the audience who are clapping, then we do it with the plants. So yeah. By the time we are stuck like this, we should think about very, very creative ideas that can sell our capacities.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Asimon, I know you have to run. So do you want to say a quick thing before you jump off?
Yes. So yes, I just wanted to quickly share two thoughts about the last question that you raised, Karishma. That was about young artists who are trying to navigate these times that are so uncertain, right? So I wanted to say that one, if they are established artists that they admire, this would be a great time for them to reach out to them and see if they can mentor them. If like they admire their artistic aesthetic, if they admire their artistic convictions and responses and sensibilities, this is the great time for them to reach out to established artists and see if they can establish a relationship, a mentorship relationship. The other thing is I think artists are very generous. So there are so many resources online that can be accessed for free. So this would be a great time for them to access those kinds of resources, workshops and classes for any kind of topic that they are interested in. And I think what we have been doing at Tebere Arts Foundation is to post the resources that are available out there on our website. So please keep checking on our website whenever you get an opportunity to see what might be available. And you can also sign up for our newsletter, because whenever we get these opportunities, we share them. So those are the two things that I wanted to share. Please find people, artists that you like, admire, and see if they can mentor you. To find free resources online where you don't have to pay anything. Some of these classes ordinarily would cost so much, and artists are just like sharing them for free. So yeah, I'm so sorry I have to go. I wish I could stay, but someone had offered to take care of my baby, and now they have to leave, so I have to get back to him.
Thank you so much for being here, Asimwe. Big kisses to the young one and big hugs to you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you all. Thank you. See you at the next panel, hopefully.
See you. Pablo, I wanted to pass it on to you to share, to hear from you.
Okay, well, I couldn't agree more with Deborah in terms of mentorship. At least I've been doing that for my prodigies. I have a number of young people who have always been inboxing me. They want to do some comedy. They want to learn how to script, for TV. So I've been mentoring some of those. So if there are any others who are really interested and they want to take that path, I'm open to help them. And again, advice to emerging artists, for me, passion like temper is too good a thing to lose. Don't lose passion. It's the most important thing. I know the worst enemy of passion is fear, but fear, as they say, is just false evidence appearing real, This is just a moment. It's just a moment. But once you have passion, nothing can stop you, because your mind will be focused on what you want. And believe you me, the end justifies the mean. At the end of the day, you'll bear fruits. I think that's why they're called passion fruits. And I think the young people should take their time, Most of the young people I've met are in a rush for success. They want to be an instant hit, The more you rush, the more you crash sometimes. So take time, learn the process, the structure, ask questions, read, observe, and that will help you to understand your craft better. Look out what are other people doing that are in the space I want to be. What are the lessons learned? Because I always tell people that if you want to know the journey ahead, or you ask those who have taken that route before, or those who are coming back, they'll give you the best advice. So it's very important to seek guidance. You shouldn't test the depth of the ocean with both legs, especially if you don't know how to swim. So it's very important for the emerging artists not to fear. And also, again, they need to believe in themselves. Most of them, some of those that I've met, have a lot of if, and but in their vocabulary. If I had this, I would do that, but now and now I can't achieve. So they have to be optimistic. Be optimistic about what you want. There are very many people don't listen to all voices. Not all voices have good intentions, Pick out what works for you, and believe you me, at the end of the day, no matter how long it takes, you'll definitely get there. Because most people look at other people's trajectories. They say, how come my friend was able to hit the stage first before me. But then sometimes everyone has their own path. It's like a race, you know. Mm-hmm. Others others it's a 100-meter race, you know. Bolt, is he called Bolt? Usain Bolt. Yeah. It only took him, is it 2 minutes or how many minutes to get a gold medal? But others like Kiprotich had to run for 3 to 4 hours. But at the end of the day, they all got gold medals. So it's not how long it takes, but how much you get along the way.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful, beautiful note for us to end on. So thank you. Thank you so much, Pablo. I'm walking out of this conversation so inspired and so motivated to keep working and keep doing more. So thank you. I want to take this opportunity to open up the floor for any questions from our audience members. I see that Bernard has posted some stuff in the chat, and you've also raised your hand for a question. So please, Bernard, feel free to introduce yourself, say hi, and ask your question.
Thank you so much for the debate. I'm Bernard Mujuni. I work with a company called Workspaces. We create workspaces for young creatives to thrive. Currently, we are developing an estate. It's a big estate. It's a forest, and we are making it available as a creative hub. It will host an amphitheater, 1,000 capacity seater, cafe, and all that kind of stuff, and so many things. But I'm also a creative. I'm a poet. I write lots of poetry, and I've been struggling with someone publish my work. I have over 400 poems. I'm stuck with it, but I keep writing all the time. Okay, but now I'm making a breakthrough. I got someone, Ogon, a cartoonist, to do visuals for 100 of them. First, first line of anthology and all that. But my view is that as creatives, we lack the space. We need deliberate space to be created by those who have made it. If you have already made it, create adequate space for the next generation or for other artists to thrive. We tend to be selfish, be like any other business, but the whole thing is that we survive on crowds and on the numbers, and we need to create the space to accommodate those numbers. The other aspect is about the intellectual property rights and patenting the work that we create. There's a lot of plagiarism, a lot of piracy, and that's why someone is recording the show, uses it in the advert, and then you can't run it around. You even don't know how to run. So to go against, you don't even know your net worth. You know, if you're going to advertise or to use your voice to create content for a telecom company, what is your net worth? What is your worth? And then they end up exploiting you, but the advert is going viral and your work is being used to generate billions of money. I think we need forums like this and deliberate measures to learn how to monetize even our content. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernard, for sharing that insight. Pablo, Ahmed, is there any way or any thoughts that you have to respond? Folks, anybody who is listening in, please feel free to unmute yourself and turn on your video, because this is an open forum at this moment. Feel free to ask questions and engage in similar kind of debate and questions as well. So over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Mujuni. And that's a brilliant idea to have the camp. And I do believe that the artists out there will also come and, you know, give some pro bono time to mentor the young and upcoming artists. And I also agree with you, we should set the right precedence by passing on our information to the younger artists, because that's the only way we can grow the industry. In terms of copyright law, I don't know, I think the copyright law in Uganda, especially when it comes to music and art, it's been a battle. It's been taking a while for them to approve. I don't know what's happening in the political arena. I think we just need to join politics and go do it ourselves. When it comes to the copyright, it's very important to craft your content in a way that makes it difficult to be stolen. For example, in the comedy world, one of the things I find very interesting is because you do comedy in English and in the local languages. Now, what the local language comedians do, they'll go and watch your English clips and then put them in the local language. Very innovative, but it's more or less like, it's creative, but also again, it's not theft, it's more or less like imitation is an invitation to elevation, but somehow you can't draw a line between, is that my joke since it's in the local language? So as creatives, you have to create your work in a way that it will make it difficult. Or if a person is to steal your work, they should also pay a price to that. Then I know we might not have the copyright law, but you can have the non-disclosure agreements if you're pitching ideas. And then I'd also like to encourage artists to have lawyers, you know. Sometimes we think that lawyers are very expensive, but I do believe you have a relative friend or in-law who is a lawyer. Take advantage of that relationship. And every time you're entering into something, have a written document, even if it's 1 page, you know? And in that way, the people out there will understand that you're a serious artist. And then also again, we are lucky that now we have different forums like YouTube. You create your content, put it on YouTube. Every time it will generate some income for you as well. So in a way, a person can't download your clip and well, they might download it and then make DVDs and sell them. That one you have no, it's very hard to control unless you're going to, it's very hard to control, but it's also a plus in a way because it's indirectly selling you. So what you do in your content, if you have content, make sure that they can access your space. If I make a video, I'll script there, my YouTube channel, everything, such that even if you download it, it's very hard for you to remove those details because whoever watches it will definitely get to know how to get more of my content and information. Congratulations upon your book. And I love poetry. Guys successfully failed in that area. But yeah, congratulations upon that. Back to you, Karishma.
Thanks for that, Pablo. And I just allow me to add on, just to step out of moderator role and become an audience member for a second and say that I think it is so important for us to come up with agreements like this. But I was on a call with a couple of my colleagues yesterday at the Georgetown lab, and one of the things that came up in our conversation was the idea of building relationships as being the central core of any sort of artistic collaboration. So I think, yes, as we institutionalize performance and we start building infrastructure to create productions and to have agreements and to make sure that content is not, you know, counterfeited or copied, at the same time, I really think it's important to build solid relationships with people and establish a sense of mutual trust with future collaborators. Just because that for me personally as an artist, as a producer, goes a much longer way than anything really. The trust between my colleagues is important. Amoti, I see your hand has been raised, and I also ask if you want to add anything to that, please feel free.
Yeah, it was.
Yep, thank you, Karishma. Well, first, a big thanks to all the panelists who have been very interesting views. I wanted to pick up on two ideas. One that was raised by Arthur on entrepreneurship, and then also to add some thoughts to the debate on, or to the discussion on intellectual property. Now, one of the challenges we are facing here in Africa is that we don't have the kind of economic infrastructure that you see in Europe and the West that enables them to have spaces that are well managed. And so we don't have enough bodies that monitor IP use, even in spaces like YouTube. If you posted a video and used somebody's content, there's going to be a robot somewhere that will note that you've used somebody's content, and therefore that content cannot be monetized. We don't have those kind of bodies in Africa. Those are things that we need to start thinking about. How do we create bodies like that? Then there's also the question of self-governing bodies, which here normally take on the form of associations, essentially organizations or bodies that we subscribe to as institutions or as artists, where we agree to some form of regulations that we all, some sort of standards that we will all adhere to. It's something that you see in sectors like banking, in sectors like insurance, in as much as they have competition between themselves. They've got these self-governing bodies that regulate how they behave with each other. I think things like that can help us reduce instances of intellectual property theft, because ultimately, if I've stolen Kenneth's joke, I need to either publish it on my YouTube page, or publish it on Facebook, or publish it on radio, or publish it on TV for it to be seen. So spaces like that can be monitored if we have bodies that specialize in that. The same can be said for live events. But there's a point that Pablo made, which I think is something that a lot of emerging artists and emerging organizations have to make peace with, that sometimes intellectual property theft is also a way for you to go viral. Sometimes it helps build your profile when somebody, that concept of emulation is elevation. Once people know who you are, once your content is going out, if somebody's making DVDs, you may not be making revenue from it immediately, but at some point in time, that publicity is going to turn into, you can collect it later on if you're able to cash on it by building your profile. So for me, what I would recommend for emerging artists, because the laws are there, although some of the fees right now might not be as friendly as possible, but we have laws both within the East Africa community and also within Uganda itself. But a concentration on that, I find, drives artists' energies away from what they should be doing, and which is raising their profile, building their brands, looking for a way to publicize themselves. I think things like that, once your name is known, it becomes harder for people to steal from you. Like, I'll use again Pablo's example. Everybody who has watched Pablo knows what kind of comedy he produces. So the moment you start to do something that sounds like him, people will immediately recognize it and know that you're doing something that sounds like Pablo. And an artist like that cannot go far, because you must have a brand of your own. On the question of entrepreneurship, I think Arthur raised a very good point there, though for creatives sometimes it becomes complicated, because most times entrepreneurship in the world we are living in, the reality is that you have to go for products that are going to move fast, and that means that you're going to look for business ideas that will take you away from what you need to do traditionally. He raised a good example in saying even the people we go to for funding raise their money from lotteries, they raise their money from donations from corporations. It's all coming from some other commercial business. I recently attended an event where somebody who was explaining how circles worked just gave us a small demonstration of how much wealth is sitting amongst us that we cannot produce. If you got all the number of artists that are actively available in Uganda, for example, you're going to find that you have probably more than 500,000 or even up to 1 million artists who are active. So imagine if those people were all contributing, let's say 10,000 shillings every month to this single fund that produces, that then produces some sort of bank or investment capital, and you have obviously reliable people who are managing it to invest and multiply it. You would find that it would be possible for us to create local funds which can provide an alternative and step in that gap, in that funding gap right now that is being filled in by Europeans and Americans. Of course, there will be questions about honesty, but those are things that, as people have been saying, can be governed if we use processes that are transparent. So I think for me, to round my long submission up, we have to recognize that the kind of world we want to create in which the art sector works for us can only be created when we work together as institutions, not just as individual brands. Some brands are institutions, some individuals are institutions on their own, but as institutions, if we begin to work together and build this kind of self-governing bodies, we can progressively create the kind of infrastructure that makes the creative economy work for us. I will end it there, Karishma.
Thank you. Arthur?
Yes. People have been speaking before, have mentioned very, very interesting points, but also I would like to come back to the idea of burnout. This is something very, very, very good. It's a very nice initiative, this idea of a creative hub. And at the end of his question, he mentioned that we should have the private sector on board. Yeah, and you know, but also Kangere, at the end of his contribution, he is coming back to this idea of working together, and it is very, very difficult for artists to get supported when they are working as individuals. So the only one way to work with the private sector is, first of all, to work together as artists, and then think about collaborating with the private sector. This is something we have to focus on. And about the idea of the question of copyright and piracy, Pablo mentioned this idea of joining politics. This was my first suggestion. For artists, I mean, established artists, because we should not mix both, because if we mix both from the beginning and then you start from at the beginning of your career, you become an artist and you want also to become a politician, you will do none of the two. Yeah, but when you feel like you are an established artist, it would be very, very important for you to join politics, not only as a critic, but as a policymaker. Because I think artists are politicians. They are politicians in the sense of being critics, but I would like to suggest that we should become politicians in the sense of joining policy making boards. Yeah, this is something which will improve the way we are working and how effective we can be. This question of copyright, for example, in Burundi, we got an office, a copyright office in Burundi in 2005, but until now it's not working. It's not working because people who are working there are not they are not artists. So how do you want them to go and fight for things they even don't understand? They feel like artists are just people who do stuffs, you see, just some stuffs, you see. He will never be able to tell you what is theater, or he will tell you just that a musician or a singer is somebody who has rocks, who smokes, who, you see, they've got a different image of artists. So it's very, very difficult for them to defend their rights. So we need to do it by ourselves. If we continue delegating people, they will say what they want, because it is very easy for them to forget what we taught them to go and tell. You see, it's very easy. Yes, we should have our lawyers, and first of all, when you create your work, register your work in the office, the copyright office, if it exists in your country, and then established artists should have to find their way in policy making. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. And I just want to also recognize that Emma has said artists are also ideal politicians because of our experience and ability to listen to others, collaborate, and synthesize multiple perspectives. So again, very, very much in line with what you were just sharing with us about how we need to be the ones making the change for our community, and not somebody that is an accountant that is all of a sudden, you know, making the decisions for the entire creative and cultural economy. So thank you for that. I want to recognize that it's about 5:26, which is closing up to our time for that we had said that the event would go through. So I'm wondering if anybody has one last question to ask. Hi, Emma. Go ahead.
Hi, Karishma. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this. It's been really, really wonderful to hear everyone's thoughts and insights. I just wanted to add in a sort of hopeful note specifically to arts in the time of COVID, which is evidenced in my presence here today, which is like I would never have been here, I don't think, if we weren't in this strange time where everyone has to be remote. I'm in Maryland in the United States, and I would not have known about it or been able to attend if you all had been meeting in person. And I am gaining great perspective by being in this room with all of you. I did an opera recently, just as COVID started here in the States, where we were already on track to have rehearsals. Rehearsals were supposed to begin like a week into COVID, and we just turned the whole thing into a virtual experience. It's a small company, but our audience, we reached more people than we have ever performed for before in any previous production. The company's been alive for like 5 years. We had more audience members because people from all over the world could sign in. Yeah. And we had audience, like there were people who were like, oh my gosh, like I'm in Rome, or like I'm in California, and like they would never have been able to see our work or our shows, but because we were forced to make it a virtually accessible program, suddenly other people could see it. So for me, I'm like, I know you all are doing incredible work that I will never, well, maybe if I'm very lucky, I'll get to see it live someday, but that normally I would never be able to see that live. But as we are forced for the time being to make it virtual, now I could see work that otherwise I never would, and vice versa. So I just want to hi, thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. And I would really want to agree with whatever you have said, because I witnessed something like this. I recently shared a video, and I don't know, for whatever reason, it attracted Indians. I have a huge following of Indians on social media. I just don't know what to do about it. I think I need to learn some Hindu. And so...
in Uganda, we should have classes, some Gujarati classes for you.
Yes. Truthfully speaking, today I shared a message with my friend called Sudeep Mohanty. I said, hey, I need some clips from India to share with my... It's a huge following, Karishma. We'll talk about that.
It's a very new way of bringing everyone together, yeah.
Yeah, and my new name now is Patel.
That is.
I'm Pablo Patel, huh?
Pablo Patel, perfect. So perfect. Thank you so much for that, Pablo. Thank you, Emma, for ending this for us on a very, very hopeful note. Yes, I think we're all connected all over the world, and this is our new way of interacting. So thank you to everybody for being here. A big, big thank you to Arthur and Pablo and Asimwe for being our wonderful panelists today. I also want to mention Walter's work for us. He's our social media and marketing manager, and so thank you, Walter, for everything that you put together to make this event happen. And we hope that you'll be able to attend our next one next month on the last Thursday, and we'll send more information about the panelists then. All right. Thank you all so much. Please stay safe, stay happy, listen to Pablo Patel, follow Arthur, and if you haven't already, here are our social media links, so you're able to follow us on all of these various platforms. Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.